and welcome to Darker Days Radio live show for once. I'm one of your regular hosts, Chris, and I'm joined by Mike. Hi, Mike. How's it going? Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's easy to capture it this way and to put it out as audio. Everyone's doing it these days. I mean, if you watch the painting phase, they have lots of good episodes and lots of good thus podcasts. The most recent episode was really good, actually. Uh, oh yeah, really good, really good. Um, wow. Yeah. Yeah, so that was really good. We'll talk a bit more about Games Workshop-y Warhammer related stuff because there's a lot. There's been more today. It's ridiculous. We're going to be talking about World of Darkness because there's been quite a few releases. There's upcoming releases, and we're going to really. I think it's a compare and contrast kind of like because we haven't podcasted for ages. We haven't done reviews for ages. I think it's just where we are in our hobby because certain games feel more exciting right now than others, and I think that might just be an element of the world that we're in currently. Um, yeah, so before we get into that, I guess we'll talk about what we've been doing. Hmm. Oh, they can't hear you. Sorry, hold on. Do you want to go over that again? They couldn't hear you. I had the desktop audio off you, so let's go over that. You've been playing. You were playing some D&D.
Yeah, that's right. So for gaming wise, recently played some D&D, and also my most recent game was Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. That was really interesting. We're going to talk about that more in this episode because it really plays into the World of Darkness versus Warhammer theme of this ep. Um, but it was set in Chicago by Night 5th Edition, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll talk about that more later. And Chris, what kind of gaming have you been up to lately
Oh, a
that you
fair
want to share?
bit. I've been running a Necromunda campaign that's been going on for about the last 2 or so months. It's been good fun. We're at the halfway point, so we're going to start introducing vehicles. And I've had a game involving ash waste vehicles to try out the rules, and they're actually quite simple. If you've played Gorka Morka in the past, this feels easier than that, I think. So that's been good fun. Warcry with the more recent version, so where you've got reactions, that was a really good game I played recently. Really made use of reactions a lot. So I think they're actually a really good element to the game. And that was
Yeah,
using
yeah,
the
definitely.
Askurgan Treeblaze, the vampires, and the new. I finally got like Heart of Gur painted up after like 6 months of it sat on my
Mm.
shelf, and that terrain's fantastic. So I need to get some more of that series. Yeah, so there's been that. I said Necromunda. I've not really been doing any role play. Not been playing anything recently. I think just because wargaming's kind of been scratching my gaming itch. And we'll talk about a bit more of that because I've been painting a lot. I've got two 40k armies now painted. I've got Blood Ravens
Mm.
painted, 1,000 points of those, 1,000 points of Necrons. I've got the bits to make the Necron army into a combat patrol. So I've got two
Okay,
miniatures to
cool.
make for that. And I've got um, you'll be able to see these here. What have we got?
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Well, it
This is
focused
gonna
there.
be this is gonna be great for audio. Looking at that
Yeah, that's gonna be
Adeptus
great, isn't it?
class
Yeah,
Seraphim.
it's the Seraphim from Sister Battle. So I've got the combat patrol for them, and thanks to Imperium magazine, I've got the Paragon war suits to make that 1,000 points, and
Mhm.
to make it 1,000 points, I've got my Arbites to beef them up.
Oh, that's good.
Because like them and an Inquisitor and the Arbitrace feels very thematic, so we're gonna go with that.
It does, and that's kind of how it was back in like third edition when they had the Witch Hunters Codex.
Yeah, yeah,
It was really good. Yeah, and speaking of like the benefits of audio versus video, people listening will not see me working on these rattling snipers right here, filing them down.
excellent.
So it's all pretty fun. So, yeah, I think that's good for our game update. And let's just get into the main topic, which is also kind of gaming news as well, because there's been a lot going on. And Chris, you and I've got a lot of opinions. So,
Oh
why
yeah,
don't we dive into that?
right. Oh yeah, if you hear us pause, that's because where we put like the bumpers into the
Yeah.
podcast. Okay. Werewolf 5th edition, because that's
Yep.
coming out soon.
In like a month.
Yeah.
A month, yeah, and that's oof, we've been talking about this for a long time, about basically 5 years. Basically, Vampire hit, and immediately we're like, all right, what's going to happen with Werewolf?
I think we've been talking about this since World of Darkness Berlin.
Yeah,
Like we knew, I think
have.
the things that they're doing are the changes we expected, and then when 5th edition Vampire came out, that became very clear. What it fitted in. So what are we getting with Werewolf 5th edition then? Like, where are we going with this game?
Yeah, so it's going to be another big, chunky role-playing game core book. Probably going to be more like the Hunter size than Vampire 5th edition, so it's going to be a little bit slimmer, but still it's going to have a lot of content in it. The game itself is very similar to Old Werewolf. All right, I've been seeing a lot of people saying it's changing a lot. They're adjusting a lot of things, and they are changing things, but it's really just to bring it back, bring it into the 21st century. Tribes are being renamed, they're being reimagined. Ones that still exist still have their old names. They're getting refocused, so that they really have a place in the society, not just for how they fight the worm, but also how they exist in Guru society in general, and what that tribe really does, even before the War of Rage, before the Impergium, before all of the darkness entered that world.
That all sounds very much like the approach to the tribes in Werewolf the Forsaken.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things they brought up was like, oh, what are the tribes supposed to hunt? And I'm like, we're both sitting there and we're like, yeah, it's exactly what they did in Werewolf the Forsaken Second Edition. Yeah, I mean, come on, there's a great werewolf game on the market, which is Werewolf the Forsaken, and they said, and they own it, right? So they said, hey, what can we use from this? What are the good ideas that really worked in this? And they borrowed some of that. Same thing they did with Vampire 5th edition. There's a lot of elements of Requiem in there. We've been saying that for a while. And, it is a little, it's probably a little frustrating for Forsaken writers who have, put their heart and soul into developing this game, just to see this other game kind of just take some of the ideas. But if it works, it works. And, whatever makes Werewolf the Apocalypse a better game, I think is just good for the community. When the waters rise, all the ships rise as well. So in the end, this will probably help out Forsaken as well. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so we're getting some kind of like, again, some reframing of the tribes, aren't we? Because that's kind of fitting with what they did in Vampire, for certain. Like where you look at, say, we have the Ministry rather than we've not rather than the Cultist set, but they're broadened out, or they're less focused on a particular people from a particular part of the world to create some horrible stereotype. So we've got some renamings, haven't we? We've got Fianna are Heart Wardens, so they're all about care management. You've got Octana are now Ghost Council, and they're all about spirits. Wendigo are now called the Gale Stalkers, but they have to eat something and eat raw flesh. Well, that's cool.
We haven't seen much about the Gale Stalkers. I don't think we've gotten an actual 2-page release for them, so we only know just little tidbits on them. But the Uktena becoming the Ghost Council, their themes are actually very similar. They were always about dealing with spirits, having the spirituality, a lot of theurges in this game. So that hasn't changed too much. The Fianna transitioning into the Heart Wardens and being all about management of the cairn and balance. They kind of already had that when they were the Fianna. They were also focused on the spirits, but they also had a lot of baggage with fairies, and then in the early editions, alcoholism as well,
Oh
which
yeah.
we will we'll talk about that a little bit later. Um, and of course, the big omission now is that the Stargazers are gone. We just got rid of them. The East Asian werewolves that did karate are no longer a thing. And generally, just the tribes are all very culturally neutral, which is something we really needed. But they also have a lot more purpose because some of
Yeah.
the tribes really were just a cultural stand in. And if you took that part of them away, there was basically nothing. There
Yeah.
was not a lot to them. So having these real functions in society to kind of make the Guru Nation make more sense and seem more dynamic, I think is really important. And the writers are definitely, uh, I think, going in generally the right direction with those changes. Um, the actual writing themselves, I've had some complaints about. Like the Heart Wardens. I don't really know what to actually do with them. It seems like from the way it's written, they just are going to sit there in the cairn and just kind of manage spirits all day, which it doesn't really make sense for a more outgoing game.
I guess cairn management might fit in with a little bit of oh, which tribe was it in Way of the Forsaken? Is it the one of them is all about managing your territory?
Yeah, right. And actually, well, we haven't really seen much about territory management in this,
So that they
in the
may
same way
fit
it's
with
been
this
Forsaken.
because
But
cairn
yeah,
management it mostly fits in to do with ley lines and creating balance and
mm,
ensuring the spiritual kind of ecosystem is healthy. So that might be what they do is kind of
yeah,
bridge that gap.
yeah, certainly. I mean, it's only a two-page spread. A lot of it was artwork as well, so there is there's still room for it to all be fleshed out. We're just looking at the bare minimum at the moment. I'm
Are
sure
we?
the whole book itself will have a lot more in there.
I mean, honestly, with the way how Vampire 5th edition turned out in the end and has evolved with a lot larger focus on factions which aren't the Camarilla and aren't just the Anarchs and aren't just the Sabbat. That real reframing, I'm not surprised with how they're going with Werewolf, and I think this just feeds into the whole thing of like everything we know about Chronicles of Darkness and what we love of that is getting used wholesale in these new
Mm,
editions.
mm.
It's clear they learned a lot from those, and it's no surprise. I mean, well, I say it's no surprise. I mean, it's no surprise when you consider Justin Achille working on this, having worked on at one point was leading World of Darkness.
Yeah.
Um, but it does kind of it is interesting when you consider the original messaging of Vampire Fifth Edition when it came out and how it was like, oh, Requiem, no, and it's like you basically just created Requiem with Masquerade.
Yeah.
I'm still of that
Although
opinion.
I will also point out though, I've said this many times, if you look at Requiem and then you look at Vampire the Dark Ages and
Oh
look
yeah,
at the factions that exist in that, they map very, very
oh
similarly.
yeah.
So there's been a lot of inspiration that's occurred over the years. So yeah, we've only seen a little bit. There's little spoilers online. We can put that in the show notes for people to check out. It's on the Renegade website. One thing I did want to bring up is, of course, the art direction that I mentioned, and the actually I some of the art direction I really like. There's that kind of cool comic book style, which I think really works very well for Werewolf. Because talking to Rich Thomas way back in the day, comic books really inspired Werewolf a
Yeah.
lot. Like the Wolverine's claw marks in a comic book directly influenced how the first edition Werewolf book was the cover was cut. And there's also a lot of the kind of digital concept art, the kind of like smooth digital lines and the like, which is a pretty stark contrast between the two. Of course, some people have found that there was an artist who was tracing a bunch of real people's photos, including some pretty famous people in ethnically sensitive photography. So uh, some of that's been taken out. There's one that's still in there that looks like it's based off of like it's traced off of a model,
Yeah.
and that's still in there last I checked yesterday. So that's a little weird. Hopefully they fix that in the end. Because it's just it doesn't look very good if you're
No.
obviously just tracing
I
other
mean,
people.
we've seen this happen before with Hunter. Hunter
Yeah.
the Vigil, first edition back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
It what did it have? It was the Devil May Cry artwork from Devil May Cry 3 was used as
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
archetype artwork, and that was just a straight copy almost.
Yep.
Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, what about rules wise? What are we seeing with werewolf then? Like that kind of mimics vampire.
I mean, a lot of the werewolf stuff is the same. You have the 5 different forms you can go into, Krynos, Homid, Hispo, etc. That's all pretty similar. But the spicy thing is, of course, the rage dice. So
Yeah.
you have rage, which can increase and decrease throughout the game based on your actions and what the storyteller and you decide. And then when you make a roll, some of your dice are rage dice. And the interesting thing about those is that they're different than hunger dice. So you still make a dice pool and then replace the number of dice equal to rage. Then you roll them, and
Yeah.
any ones and twos on the rage dice are brutal results. If you get 2 or more brutal rolls, you get a brutal outcome. This means that the test fails and your rage takes over and you harm someone, break
Okay.
something like that. However, if part of your role was trying to do something aggressive, trying to destroy something, trying to throw a car, anything like that, the the test does not fail and you get an extra +4 successes.
Okay.
So it's
So
kind of like you can end up with like a super critical basically. If you roll a lot of tens, roll a lot of brutals, you're in combat, that sort of thing, you're doing tons of damage. So it
yeah.
means that rage is great for combat, but terrible for social, basically.
So it's not quite a messy critical because that was in vampire. That's where you get a critical result on a hunger die,
Yep.
and that
Yeah, it's different
creates
than
a
that.
critical. So this is so there must still be criticals like that. Well, there's still interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So brutal dice basically can give you an additional +4 successes in addition to any actual successes you have, if in combat, and if you're trying to harm something or punch through a wall.
Because
So it
if you get a fail with the not critical fail, whatever they're called in vampire, but you get a one on the hunger die that gives you a
Mhm.
your character goes in if it goes into a oh, I don't know what was the, what do they what happens to him? It's been a while since I played it. It's
Yeah, you basically you can frenzy, you can have some kind of a compulsion.
yeah,
Um,
compulsions, yeah.
yeah,
So this is much more showing that failing is even more dangerous with werewolves because you can
yeah,
just go ballistic.
yeah. You could actually roll very well on your dice, but if you get 2 uh, of those brutal results, it fails and you break something or you tear a guy's heart out. Anything like that can happen. So it makes it very zesty. So it'll be pretty interesting to kick the tires on that and
That'll be
see how
fun.
it all plays. Yep.
Yeah, that would be definitely fun to play. Yeah, so we're just waiting for some more teasers, I guess, then of the rules for that.
I think we're just waiting for the book at this point. I'm not sure if there's really going to be much else.
No,
I
there
mean, it
isn't
comes out
much.
in a month.
Yeah, if you've seen Vampire and you've seen Hunter, you've kind of seen most of the mechanics in their toolbox that they can utilize. So,
Oh,
yeah.
and then the other thing I just want to bring up is that so far we've seen no photorealistic art. So that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Since we saw,
Yeah.
remember that werewolf one from By Night Studios that tries to do photorealistic werewolf?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yes, they learned from that, and that's why I think they got
Okay.
comic book style instead, which really works. They got great artists for it, so I think it's coming together.
I'm going to keep on the briefly on the. I'll find the book on the. Oh, I've got too many books here. There we go. related to World of Darkness, I've got a copy of Exalted Essence, so
Oh yeah.
that is much thicker than I was expecting for
Yeah.
Exalted Essence.
Same here.
This is
Same
meant to
here.
be a streamlined play system, but then again, it does contain all Exalted types from the game, so okay. I think the rule system's fairly simple. I still need to get my head around how charms work in it. I need to read that all again. But yeah, it'd be good to play
Yeah.
that soon because I do like Exalted as a setting. It's just every edition before it was painful once you got to combat, and it was so easy to make
Right.
characters that were absolutely useless at anything. It was just
Yeah. Exalted Third Edition is great if you have a storyteller who has an encyclopedic knowledge of all the charms and stuff. But
I know-
that's the problem. You need that person.
yeah, and yeah, it's yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that'll be pretty good. But let's step away from RPGs and World of Darkness, Age of Sorrows stuff, and let's talk about 10th edition. Oh, Chris has got the Leviathan book right there. Why don't you kick us off and talk about what you think about this this new edition for this classic game?
Okay, so it's clear that they've taken a lot of design choices from Age of Sigmar. So, weapon profiles, what you need to roll to hit on them, and their damage, especially in the case of close combat weapons, that's all split out from the main profile. So, in that sense, it's much easier to read what you're doing. You're not having to go, oh, my ballistic skill's this, but I'm using this weapon, so there's a modifier there, and then there's some other modifier on top of that. So you're only really ever reading one string of values, if that makes sense. So I think that's quite good. I like the idea of objective control, so that every unit, every model has the ability, has a, how can we say, a quantifiable amount of how they can hold an objective, and so that ties into victory points, and clear that you can win a game even if your army is pretty much blown off the table, so long as you win by objectives. Now that's really important because if you play, say, something like Warcry, that's also a totally valid way of playing, as in you can win purely off objective and all your warriors get butchered. So that I think is an important step, because obviously some armies are going to play in an incredibly aggressive way to hold objectives and allow their Tyranids, warriors, or their termagants to die in droves. So that may help allow you to play quite thematically with things. And then I think the fact that they've really trimmed down the stratagems, like I had a real trouble like looking at a codex plus the rule book. I'm going like, I'm going to play this army, but then there's all these stratagems in the core book, then there's these stratagems here, and then it would always be the bloat of every White Dwarf, which I'm really hoping that we don't get into, that we stay in this kind of one in, one out kind of rule set, where if they're going to add something new into the army, it's going to replace something. I think this comes back to the whole thing that we've seen, that I like about game design in, say, Vampire the Requiem, when with Bloody Dots, when Rose Bailey explained, like, if you're going to have a series of powers, the higher ones shouldn't make the lower ones redundant. So again, I feel that's the right thing in stratagems. Like, nothing should ever feel redundant. There shouldn't be a killer set of options that means you've won before you've hit the table.
Right.
And essentially, it's just easier to absorb. Like, I've read the rules, and I've looked at the stratagems, and I've looked at the unit cards for, say, the Tyranids, and I'm like, okay, I actually can see how to play this edition. Whereas 9th edition, I had the Space Marine Codex for my Blood Ravens to play with Blood Ravens, and I just could not really grok it. And the last time I played 40k was mostly about what, 5th edition. We're talking 2005, and it just feels everything's trimmed down, and third edition like, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of one of the goals of this edition was to reduce the bloat, simplify things, and help streamline. And it's interesting that you bring up that you feel like it's like third edition because I've actually been playing 40k third edition.
A classic.
And yeah, really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. I mean, it is kind of janky in some ways. There is a lot of confusing stuff about how close combat works, but one of the things I really like is that units are very straightforward.
Yeah.
You know what they do. Your opponent understands what they do. There's no the problem with no, not eighth edition. Ninth edition was the stratagem stratagems kind of coming out of nowhere and turning like a bunch of Gretchen into like godlike beings for a turn and just like mow down things. That kind of stuff doesn't happen in third edition. So I really appreciate that. But you know, I mean, obviously third edition is pretty old, from 1998, and it has very simplistic scenarios.
Yeah.
They're not very streamlined or really that dynamic, except for a couple like the siege scenario or the breakthrough. So, you know, looking at 10th, I am very interested because there's a lot of dynamism to it. You know, you mentioned White Dwarf, what they're going to do. It seems like they're making this White Dwarf club where they're going to have like
Yeah.
a ton of extra scenarios coming out for it and using it that way instead of extra rules like extra units, extra stratagems. It's going to be, oh, here's a new way to play. Try this out. Maybe some experimental kinds of things, which I think will be great. That'll be a lot of fun. I really appreciate the fewer stratagems, and then also the simple army building.
Yeah.
Really, really makes me happy because I was looking at the Chaos Space Marine index, and you can make an entire army of cultists now, which really intrigues me. I think that's a lot of fun, I wish I could do it.
Let me just look up, because obviously right now we have the app. The app is quite good, and right now is free to use. How long that's going to last, I don't know. But if you get all the rules via subscribing to Warhammer Plus, then great. I hope it's that. I hope it's that, because we are at the point. I really think we're at the point where buying codexes feels really, really pointless.
Yeah, it's not good.
Because
it's not
immediately that like the Space Marine index cards that came out is such a doorstop, and already we've got erratas, and they've already errated the Eldari, and it's just like when you've got that kind of churn of updates and rebalancing, like buying that stack of cards feels painful. Buying a codex every year feels really painful. Yeah. I felt the same way with Age of Sigmar, actually. So I just feel, and you know, I have to take one hat off, I feel often, and put another hat on. Like take the Cubicle 7 writer hat off, put the Private Press hat on, and go and look at their app. You've got all the rules free to download, absolutely free, forever, and the app is something you subscribe to or you buy the bits to support the army, and it is really well designed. It's ridiculously well designed compared to their previous one, and that is the vehicle for the rules. And you know, codexes or army books or whatever they're going to be are a vehicle for, I think it's going to be a vehicle more for like scenarios and campaigns, which I feel is more fun to buy a thing of. I'm just trying to look at my Battleforge, and do I have a Chaos Army written up? No, I'm going to make a Chaos Army as we're talking right now. So if I go to Chaos Space Marines Incursion, because we're going to play 1,000 points, we're just going to put a test name in there. Let's do that. That's fun. And create army. So I need a character. A Chaos Lord. I've got one of those.
Yeah, sure. We'll have a Chaos Lord and a bunch of cultists. So put in a bunch of cultists, the mutated cultists, the traitor guardsmen.
Oh, their battle line. Shit. Okay.
Yes, you got 6 of them.
So I've got Legionnaires from Kill Team. So I've got a squad of them.
Okay.
I've got, how many cultists are in a mob? 10?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I think
it's 10 to 20.
I've got 30 of those because I've got the ones from Dark Vengeance. So I've got 20 of those. and I've got the ones in from the expansion for Blackstone Fortress. So that's my cultist, and then oh god, yeah, wow, that's already 300 and whatever points. And then what other data sheets? What else we got in here? A Curse Cultist, Chaos Bikers, Chaos Spawn. I've got 2 of those. What else we got? Fun things. Where are the Do we have? Oh, we got Trait Guardsmen. Got some of them.
Yep.
That's already 570,
Disgusting.
so I don't need to buy much more to make a Chaos army.
Yeah.
I need
Like,
to buy a
again,
tank.
that was incredibly fast to build up an army.
That's going
And
to be it's that I've got a stupid cultist army. Brilliant. That's all I want.
yeah, that's all I want too. And I think that's pretty cool for the chaos guys because it makes them different than regular Space Marines because you get those schmoes and also like the cool kind of demon options as well.
That's also very like 4th edition 40k. I think we had like Lost and the Damned as a codex back then.
Yeah, it was whenever the Black Crusade event was.
Yeah, that got rolled back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're quite happy with 40k. I have to say the book.
Well,
I'm happy. I'm happy with what's in here. There's a lot of scenarios and Crusade. Crusade is nicely updated. I'm happy with that. What are you not happy with?
yeah, I mean, so I haven't played 10th yet.
No, I haven't yet.
And what I've been looking at some videos, watching people play it. They're all really excited about it. They're having a good time, but I see just the plethora of rerolls and light infantry just being absolutely deleted. It's still a very, very killy. And I'm used to 3rd edition, 4th edition, where even a guardsman squad can survive a turn or 2 of shooting. Maybe they'll start running, but they can still do things. In this edition, there's just so many dice flying, so many rerolls still, which said they were going to roll back the rerolls, and that doesn't feel like it's really the case. And guys are just dying left and right. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I think really I just need to play a casual game, just see how I really feel.
Yeah, same.
Casual opponent, a nice friend to do it with. I'm not going to be playing like tournaments and that kind of stuff, and I shouldn't be looking at tournament players online because they're probably just too intense for my level.
They focus on 1 or 2 games, and they, they absorb the rules and the meta. I'm not looking for that. Yeah, I want to play Combat Patrol. I think that's brilliant that they've done this. It makes getting into it so much easier. Like I said, I've got like 4 Combat Patrols with 0 effort. It's crazy. And the fact that they're roughly about 500 points each, and they have their own index cards to balance themselves against each other. So yeah, and it plays on what two of the
2 kill team boards.
2 kill team boards. So that's roughly
whatever that size is.
It's the equivalent of 3 foot by 3 foot. That's a good size.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, that's beer and pretzels Warhammer for me. That's what I want.
Yep.
That's also about the same number of models as 2nd edition 40k. So brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, talking about blast from the past, because this is high on our list. Is Horus Heresy Legions Imperialis. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it looks really fun. It's going to be basically Horus Heresy Warhammer 30,000 at a very small scale. I think like 6mm. Is that right?
It's bigger than 6mm was original Epic size. Even though original Epic scale was all over the bloody place, like really all over the place. This is more like, I don't know. From looking at it, and for what people said, I think around about a 6mm figure will be a solar auxiliary, so essentially like a guardsman, a human. 8mm is more your Space Marine scale. So we've got nuance of scale of the fighters, and I think they're meant to be a 25mm base. Around 25mm base has 5 fighters on it, and that is a unit. And then you've got tanks. They look amazing. They're all in the same scale as what we've seen from Aeronautica Imperialis, which is all in the same scale as Adeptus Titanicus. So essentially they've gone, oh look, we've already got these models done, and they're just filling out the rest so we can play Epic.
Yeah. So combined arms warfare,
Yeah.
30,000.
So it's not going to have the granularity of rule set as Adeptus Titanicus, because that is Titans versus Titans. And really, when you're dealing with units of, when you've got squadrons of tanks and platoons of troops moving around, you do not have time to start fanning about with, do I need to vent plasma or do I repair? Like that's fun in the world of Adeptus Titanicus, with that kind of that same thrill that you get, I'm sure, in playing Mech Warrior, where you've got to make those hard choices. But the hard choices are now going to be: are you going to get your troops into position to hold an objective? Because clearly, like Epic 40,000, troops, while squishy, were incredibly important to hold objectives, like holding buildings and so forth. They're the only things that can do that. I think we're going to get minis for destructible buildings, so we're going to get the ruins.
Ooh, spicy. That's
it
really
looks
nice.
it, because they don't look like they've made those by hand from the existing stuff. So I'm excited for that. Like I say, we're going to get troops. The box set has, 2 Warhounds in it, some troops, some tanks, some Solar Auxilia with some Lehman Russ battle tanks and some other stuff. Obviously, knights will be playable in it, because we have knights of all sizes from Adeptus Titanicus.
Yep.
We're going to have Xiphons and other aircraft. We're not going to see some of the other aircraft though, from on the Imperial Guard side, because they aren't part of that world at that time. So we'll see some things and not others. Yeah, I'm really kind of excited for it. So I'm going to be painting some Blood Angels, because I'm going to spray them Wraithbone and then hit them with contrast paint, because they're tiny. Like, who the fuck is going to paint them? Like,
Chris, didn't you work on a couple of epic scale things recently? And
I do have somewhere here. If I turn, there's a box of Epic Space Marine there, and that feels really redundant. I might sell it. We'll see what the new one's like and sell it, because there's gonna be collectors, and honestly, yeah.
Epic's been selling lately, because like Duncan Rhodes recently did a whole epic painting thing.
Oh right, yeah, that makes sense.
Those influencers, they can move the market. Yeah, that's and actually, Chris, it's kind of interesting that you might get rid of your epic 40,000 stuff, because I'm looking at this and I kind of wish we did that smaller scale, so you could just play 40k with really tiny dudes, and just play games at a very small scale.
That might be more viable with this, because people have done it before. There's been White Dwarf articles about it before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, certainly you could do Chaos, Space Marines. You can do Cultists basically, and Imperial Guardsmen with the miniatures that will be available.
You could do Horus Heresy at small scale with this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, mini Horus Heresy, and it would be a lot more affordable. So I think that's pretty cool. Don't know how doable it'll be, but I mean, see what happens.
Rules wise, we're going to see, I think it's more like 2nd edition Epic. So it's going to be secret order counters that you flip over to reveal. That's kind of cool. We're not getting blast markers like Epic 40,000, which kind of makes me feel a bit sad, because I like blast markers. I like those.
Yeah, they're good. They're a good system.
They're a really good system. So in that respect, then, it's funny because we always point out that Warhammer 40,000 Apocalypse rule set was basically Epic 40,000.
Yep.
So funny that rule set just got used for 28mm scale. And then the other sad thing, though, with this is that stuff in Aeronautica Imperialis is getting retired. So all of the Xenos range is getting cycled out. I think this is partly because they don't want the confusion, because they're going to rebox a whole load of things, all the aircraft as Horus Heresy compatible with Legion Imperialis. you're going to create a lot of. I think there's a definite decision there about brand confusion, and what works with what, blah blah blah. Space on shelves in a Games Workshop store, etc. etc. And so the question is this going to be successful enough, long enough to go, and then we do the 41st Millennium epic scale? Because I have the aircraft, and I have the Marines.
That's what happened with Epic originally, right? Because was it Adeptus Titanicus and Epic Space Marine were set in the Horus Heresy because it was let them basically use the same molds for each side. One was red, one was blue.
And I think it's also I think this is a thing to do with what specialist games have access to the play pit of the plot line versus what the Games Workshop studio have access to in terms of the plot line. So they work on the contemporary world and pushing the plot forward. Specialist games are in the past or in a very thin slice of the world. So yeah, that's I'm excited for it. There's other stuff coming up. I mean, we've seen some more stuff from. We've got another Necromunda book coming out. We've got a compiled Necromunda rule book, which is going to contain all of the core rules you need to play, except for the gang rule of the gang you want to play as, which is good, because currently, in order to play Ash Waste campaigns, you need to have the core rule book, and you then need to have either the Book of the Outlands, or you have the Ash Waste rule book from that box. But there's disconnects of what rules are in which book and how much they've got of it. So hopefully this book feels complete. It will mean I have a fourth rule book at this stage, because I've got Necromunda core rule book. I've got Dark Uprising, Ash Waste, and then there's gonna be this fucking thing. So, but if it means I've got one less book to carry around, then that's a good thing.
Are the house gang rules in one of the other rule books, or do you have to literally buy the individual books for that?
No, you need to get the individual house book. But they're good books, and they also they duplicate certain bits into them to make it easy for reference. And there's also like some specific scenarios per gang, so that adds some more flavor. That feeds into what I'm doing, and I think it's a good thing. It's just the nature of the beast, and the thing is, Necromunda's expanse is so much more expansive than what original Necromunda ever was. So I think this is just a point where they can go, right, that's how we're doing things, and what's the next book? Because we had the point where we had Necromunda Underhive, and then we got little gang war books, and then we got all those compiled into Gangs of the Underhive, and then we got the gang books again, but expanded, bigger, better things. It's been a wild ride with books with Necromunda. But I'm not going to complain, because there's fun stuff in there, and it's like you're not really having to buy too many models, because you're just buying a gang.
Yep, just get gang.
The vehicle of the game is, if anything, terrain and fucking rule books, and that's why it's more like a roleplay game in that sense. And that's where the joy is, flipping through and realizing, oh shit, I could have bought that weird ass weapon instead. I'll use that next time. Awesome.
All right, Chris. So
before we get on to the next bit of World Darkness, also we've seen a little bit of Old World. We've seen like some
little bit,
Bretonnian.
Like the Bretonnian hero,
I'm still
Tomb King hero.
I think I'm excited.
You got to rebase. You got to rebase to 25 mil.
Yeah, but come on, everything's going to rank up much better now. All the classic models being brought up will rank. But this also ties in with the fact that certain models from Cities of Sigmar are now being retired, because they go back into, because basically they're reboxing them to rebrand as Old World. So again, it's about brand identity, and I get that. I totally understand. They don't want confusion. They don't want someone picking up that box and going, "Oh, it says it's Age of Sigmar," but it's not. Doesn't say it's Old World. It's like it's fucking Empire. Um, like use it. Some models will still stay in Age of Sigmar, but I think they're so particular that they're not your battle line miniatures, as it were.
Right.
But you can, if you're obviously a veteran of the hobby, then you just buy what you want and convert. So who the fuck cares? And the new Cities of Sigmar stuff we're seeing for Age of Sigmar are fantastic. The new Manticore is amazing. Like that's a stunning miniature.
Very dynamic pose, yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and we're not going to talk too much about it right now, but we're getting so much closer to the Ulfin Khan book coming out for Age of Sigmar. I am like, oh, we are so running a game of that. Like,
You mean the Soulbound one? Yeah,
and like,
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I keep bugging Pat and Peachy and Jeff like, Soulbound. When are you gonna do it, guys? Do Soulbound. You know you want to do it. Soulbound with miniatures. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Patrick likes
Oh yeah, he loves
likes
it.
D&D and stuff, so I mean it'd be perfect for him.
Oh yeah.
And it's better system than 5e. I would actually venture to say.
Yeah, and they've been reading. I think he's been reading Wrath and Glory as well, and enjoying that. So I'm quite happy about that.
Cool.
And I'll briefly say, because it's kind of goes well off our show notes because we get towards the end here. It's well off the end of the notes there. There's lots of books coming out, like hard copies of Threat Assessment Xenos is coming out soon. So that's the Beastry book for Wrath and Glory. I don't know where the Eldari book is right now in the production cycle. We've done the writing on, and there's just a few bits being finessed for the Absolvers book. And I handed over, and there are pictures now, I handed over to the team at UK Games Expo my squad of Primaris Marines painted up as Absolvers.
Oh, sweet.
So they were very happy I've done that. I will paint some more at some point if I get some cheap Space Marines or some of those new Terminators. They would be sweet to paint as Absolvers.
It would be awesome. Yeah. To give him to Cubicle 7?
Yeah, tasty.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Awesome. Okay.
40k video games. No, 40k video games. World of Darkness video games. Oh god, what have you been playing?
Yeah. So a lot of them have not been on sale, so I just picked up a bunch a couple weeks ago off of Steam, and just been digging into them because a ton of World of Darkness content has come out, and I just haven't even touched it over the last couple years. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's just dive into this. So game number one was Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. Actually, I think James played this a little bit too. He had some comments. It's a fun battle royale shooter set in Prague and in the World of Darkness. You start off kind of in the lobby of the Elysium. You can wander around, talk to people, do some little quests and that kind of stuff. So that's cool. But the main content of the game is, of course, the battle royale shooter. So you drop into someplace in the streets of Prague. You just run around blasting vampire players. You terrorize mortals and feed off of them. You can get their resonance, for example. And then, of course, slowly this Second Inquisition red mist kind of confines you and tightens up the play zone. And there's also a couple of Second Inquisition NPCs who are just like wandering the street. They're called the Entity, which I'm not sure if that's an actual Second Inquisition term from like the source book or something, but they're around and they can blast you, especially if you kill a mortal. It like makes you stand out to all the vampire players and the Second Inquisition, so they kind of go after you for breaking the masquerade. And the last vamp standing wins. So it's just a shooter game. Doesn't really deal with the masquerade, vampire politics, or anything like that. I do feel like they wanted to put more content into the Elysium, which would have been kind of cool. But it's not really there at the moment. It's really just about this shooter game, and it's only got one map, so it gets pretty old pretty fast. There's cool gameplay. You can have a lot of fun climbing up walls, jumping, dashing around, doing parkour. But unfortunately, the game didn't really take off due to all the bugs and hackers, and it's now basically in maintenance mode.
Mm.
But it's also free, so if you like shooter games and don't mind how this doesn't really fit well with World of Darkness canon, you can just give it a shot and see if you like it. I played probably like a good 3 or 4 hours, bunch of matches, and it's fun. It's fast paced, and I can definitely see why people do enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, it's. I think it's one of those things like. It breaks Vampire the Masquerade theme quite a lot
Uh-huh.
by
Yep.
being something quite specific, which is vampires ripping the shit out of each other. Okay, well, if it's free, I mean, yeah, sure, try it out. I mean, I'm sure it's interesting, like, design-wise, because of how you tailor your character.
You really don't tailor.
Uh,
You pick a clan, and there's 2 different archetypes per clan, and they get 2 powers each. So there isn't really that much to tailor. You can tailor cosmetics, that sort of
yeah.
thing. There might be some small bonuses, but I really didn't dig into that. Um, and even then, bonuses can't be that good because I was still winning games when I like only put a couple hours in. So, it's definitely it really for the game it comes down to who gets the drop on the other person, and
Yeah.
that's usually the person that wins a fight. And sometimes there can be a 3-way battle, and that's a bit more spicy, but it's really about sneaking around and catching somebody or sniping them. I did a lot of sniping, so I don't know. It's a thing that exists and will exist for a little bit longer. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. Um, is it going to have a lasting impact on the World of Darkness lore, canon, that kind of stuff? Probably not. Probably
No,
not.
no.
Um, which is a bit unfortunate because obviously a lot of work went into it, but that's what happens. Um, so let's move on over to Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. So this is the first werewolf game ever. Finally got it. Unfortunately, there was the Heart of Gaia video game back in the 90s. I think they were working on that one, and early 2000s, but that one never came out, never released. So this is the first one we've ever gotten, and it's pretty mediocre. You play as a Fianna, which we all also know is no longer a tribe name. They're the Heart Wardens. And you play as a Fianna who gets rage by drinking flasks of whiskey and punching Pentex goons. So you can kind of tell what kind of game it is. The
Mm-hmm.
core gameplay loop is that you sneak around in Hamid or Lupus form until somebody spots you. Then you flip out and go Krenos and start killing the goons. The gameplay was kind of tedious and repetitive in the first few hours, but it gets more interesting and dynamic later on. And there's some really cool boss battles. So they do have some good design in that regard, where you get to fight other werewolves, black spiral dancers, spirits, all that kind of stuff. Um, it doesn't really explore spirituality or the Umbra that much. There are spirits in a couple spots, but it's not like you can step sideways and really explore that world. You just kind of can glance across the gauntlet into the Umbra, but that's it. So if you like Werewolf and it's on sale for $5, you should get it. But otherwise, I'd probably say give it a pass.
That's a shame. I mean, it sounds like it's a werewolf kind of like Devil May Cry kind of play.
I
Maybe
don't
not as
know.
well as.
I've never played Devil May Cry. Somebody pointed out on Threads actually that there was a very similar game for the PS2 for the Incredible Hulk, where you would sneak around as Bruce Banner and
Oh,
then get caught, and then you go Hulk mode. So that's kind of
yeah.
interesting to hear about. And I have made the joke a couple of times that this game would have been incredible on the PS2. Would have had such a cult following. But
I think I played.
2023.
I think I played. I think I played an X-Men game, like where you played just as Wolverine, and I think
Oh,
with that, obviously, you regenerated when your claws weren't out, and then when your claws are out,
mm,
you had more power and more killy. So, and again, yeah, you get Wolverine rages out. So again, that's a PS3 era game, maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gameplay cycle that's been used in a couple of different games, and this was based off of, geez, I think it was like the Styx
Oh,
games that they've done that Cyanide did. So it's
yeah.
kind of modeled off of that. Um, and Cyanide, you know, they're not like a AAA company. They're like a
They do some
double A
good
or
stuff.
single A.
They do the Blood Bowl games, don't they?
They do. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they don't. This wasn't meant to be a AAA title, and you do have to kind of recognize that. But on the other hand, does it really portray the Werewolf the Apocalypse lore well? I'd
You
say it
know,
does a mediocre job.
if they, I think we can already guess that if they ever, and it won't happen, it won't happen because Mage the Ascension is
Mm.
too fucking crazy and expansive to get it all into a computer game. But I feel like if the nearest thing we have to that as a PlayStation, Xbox kind of AAA game, like Control is a fucking amazing game. Control is
Right.
fantastic, and I think that's as close as you would get to some that kind of like mage like experience. Though I'm going to be honest, Control is most probably a better representation of the technocracy.
Probably.
Probably, and I have to say that sounds more fun to play as the technocrats.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be really fun, actually. Like
Yeah. But
technocrats ghost busting and other like cryptid shit. That'd be really fun.
I wish. I wish. That's the idea that Chig and I have had for the Void Engineers for ages. Just make them like the Ghostbusters. At least some of them.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
that'd be a lot
brings
of fun.
that gives us a quick side tangent of the fact that I did say on Threads, because I noticed you mentioned Threads. We're all about Threads right now.
Apparently, yeah.
The I did mention that, like, and I tagged Jason Carl in it because I thought, fuck it, why not? Like, my opinion of where I am with like writing and game stuff is like right now with Mage, because I know it was like the top. What's your top 10 favorite fucking RPGs? Right, that was the post.
Yep.
And someone said, "Oh, you put Mage the Awakening, not Mage the Ascension." I was like, right, well, much like we've seen with Werewolf, Ascension has to address a lot of the cultural appropriation and stereotypes in there. Plus,
Yeah.
we've got the whole baggage of science versus magic, because I really think modern Mage, like modern Mage Ascension, can't work off the old kind of postmodernist science is bad, because we're in this world where we've got anti-vax people and we've got economies. Basically, what we know of the economy not working, everyone's old ideas of how the economy works doesn't play out, and instead we're into like recessions and inflation and shit like that. And then we've got AI not gone mad, because it's not really AI, it's machine learning, but still we've got that's not really, that's like a an iteration X kind of nightmare where it makes people redundant, and that's not the point. It's meant to like benefit people, not like make their lives worse. And I think we're kind of in the world where I would love if Mage the Ascension basically my goal would be Mage the Ascension. The Ascension War is not over, because the Ascension War was never between the technocracy and the mages. The Ascension War is between them together and something worse. And I'm not talking about Nefandi. I'm saying Mage the Ascension needs its exarchs. It needs a group that are like. Wouldn't it be great if Control and the Secret Council or whatever of the traditions were actually the fucking same, and it's all just been one big
Love it.
game to keep everyone in check because they hold the keys to reality.
That is an interesting take. That is very Mage the Awakening, but it would be pretty spicy. And you know, they're taking a lot of ideas from Chronicles of Darkness, so who knows what's gonna
That's
happen.
my pitch, because because you imagine that it make playing Mage, like, you go, what are you playing today? You'd be like, I'm a fucking, I don't know, grey agent from New World Order trying to keep humanity safe, like kill the cryptids, do the ghost hunting, X-Files shit. And then you're like, who are you playing? Oh, you're like a fucking virtual adept fighting these rogue fucking AIs out there, and then that are like, which are basically the agents of these godlike mages who have been playing both sides off against each other. And then who are you? You're like a progenitor, and then this other person's playing like whatever you would rename Verbena. Like that sounds much more fun because that's like such a clash of ideas.
That's kind of interesting because my memory of Mage is a little foggy right now, but you had the Rogue Council in Revised kind of giving messages, and you could really flip that around and make that a maybe those are actually protagonists, but you could make them kind of in opposition to like the other archmages who basically took control of things, and maybe they caused the Avatar Storm in Revised and that sort of thing. That would be pretty interesting.
That's my pitch.
But they would also be they would be more. They could also be a more an antagonist that would be more achievable to defeat than the Exarchs as well.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of interesting because it still has the Ascension War. It just changes the dynamics of it.
Well, the thing is, I think that's what the Ascension War is now for it, is that we're in this age where both science and tradition are essentially on the decline, or at least at the aspirations of those have both failed in the face of humanity's prevailing ennui.
Yeah, how about this? How about the existing paradigms are failing?
Yeah.
So there needs to be several shifts, whether that be shifting to new existing traditions or creating new.
Horrible idea, though. Celestial choristers, classic celestial choristers, they would have like total schisms because part of them would see the current like state of the world as the perfect environment for their paradigm. I mean,
yep,
that's really frightening. Anyway,
but but I think you're onto something actually, because with that idea, that also really allows whomever's writing it, probably White Wolf or Paradox, to start deleting or changing significantly traditions because the paradigms are shifting. They've realized certain things aren't working or can't work.
I think the traditional lines between tradition mages and the technocracy don't exist anymore.
I think it's true. If I were running Mage, well, I kind of subscribe to Mark's way of doing Mage, where there's only a couple and traditions don't really exist. Every Mage is kind of unique. I think that's a good way of handling it. But understand that doesn't sell splat books, so
yeah, it doesn't sell books.
Yeah. All right.
What's the next games you've been playing anyway?
Okay, yeah.
Such a tangent.
No, I mean it's good. It's good to talk about Mage because we really haven't gotten any games for Mage other than that one little novella 6 years ago or something. And it's been mostly vampire, a little bit of werewolf. There's that one Wraith VR game, but not really anything Mage, nothing we changed. Like,
I've got a quest. Shall I talk about that quickly? I have that.
Oh, sure.
I've got a quest. I've played that. It's fucking hard. I got stuck in the. It's actually quite. It works. Cool. It's very immersive, I find. You find yourself, like, obviously to move around, you can move around, but you've got your sticks, your joysticks to help you move about. So you've got those. It's not so heavy on Wraith lore, but it is, and there's definitely like you're collecting memories and working out why you died and stuff like that. Good. But I got to the bit where you had to like essentially sneak past this mad ghost. I fucking can't. It's so hard. And the funny thing about it is that when you get into these certain into that area where you're sneaking past the ghost, there's a point where you're like partly like you're moving with the joystick and you're going like, I'm gonna crouch. Or then you go, actually, I'm gonna fucking physically crouch. I'm physically gonna look around the corner because I need to run. And that works really well. I wish I could get past it. it is a bit surreal because I think because you've got that overlaid reality, and they can
Hmm.
do so much with that. It is actually a very good game.
Ooh, that's really interesting. That's very promising for Changeling if they were did a VR Changeling game
Be
because that has
promising
the
for Mage.
chimerical. Yeah, definitely for Mage, but Changeling has the chimerical reality that kind of is a it kind of exists as an
Oh
overlay
yeah,
of
yeah,
the real reality. So that would be really fun to see. Just even like a 50% transparency kind of reality overlay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's
So
good
I've
to hear
played
about.
that.
I've never heard of anyone playing it, and obviously I don't want to go spend $800 just to be able to
On a
play
Mesa
a
Quest.
6 hour Wraith
Yeah,
game. But
yeah.
that's cool. That's really cool. All right, so let's start wrapping this up because we're going for quite some time here. Last games are Vampire the Masquerade: Coteries of New York and Werewolf the Apocalypse: Heart of the Forest. I'm grouping these together because they're both these kind of visual choose your own adventure sort of games. Heart of the Forest is set in Poland and has several stats and mechanics built in. And these unlock different progression options. So you got your spirituality, you've got your gnosis, you've got your willpower, you've got your health, rage as well. And these unlock different choices to kind of go through the branching storyline. And it's kind of neat, you know. You can lose willpower, spend it to get certain results. You can lose health because you did something bad or in a dicey situation, and of course, you know, things can not work out for you in the end. This really stands in contrast to Earthblood because it really does highlight that spiritual element of werewolf. I think that's really one of the main themes of the game, although I'm not very far into it. So I think that's really neat. And Coteries New York is kind of a similar visual story, obviously set in New York, and I gotta say, haven't played that much, but it's very well written, very snappy and engaging dialogue. Um, it's later on the mechanics. You basically just have to handle your hunger, humanity, and don't try not to breach the masquerade. Um, and seems pretty cool. And also has a sequel game, Shadows of New
Hmm.
York, which apparently Coteries kind of just ends like halfway through the story. And it's like, all right, time to buy the next game, but it's pretty affordable, so you can get the second half of it.
I've
So
played the. I got sent the demo, didn't I, for Half of the Forest and reviewed
yeah,
that. And yeah, I really, it was enjoyable. I think it really felt like it really got thematically into what Werewolf was. I think it touched the character development was really interesting as well. I think it's really interesting what you can. I think it is good what you can do with these kind of like interactive choose your own adventure kind of games
I
in this digital environment, and I think that's because you can accommodate many more branching structures based on
mhm,
mechanics
absolutely.
rather than what you can do. Like a choose your own adventure book has a certain page count. Like
Yep.
there's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you know, a AAA title, you know, Bloodlines 2, it's going to cost a lot of money to get the branching stuff in 3D, essentially. So, yeah, both of these games seem to really portray the World of Darkness setting very well, and I'm sure much more affordable to make. And they have some great artwork too. So it's not like you're just well, there are a lot of just plain text uh
yeah.
adventures that have been coming out. I'm not gonna play those ever. But these ones at least have a really good visual representation, even if it's static, not really moving, of the World of Darkness as well. So I think that's great to kind of draw people in, get them into the setting as well, and how it kind of visually feels and is represented, as well as the kind of moral choices that you'll have to make along the way. So definitely excited to beat those games eventually. I've got other things on my plate.
Oh yeah. Right. Other things. Oh, on the topic of computer games. Dark Tide. I've been playing that pretty much as my only other bit of gaming. I
Ooh.
enjoy it a lot. Running around as a guardsman with a bolt gun is
Yep.
brilliant. They keep expanding new maps on it. Environmental hazards. It is pretty fucking scary when there is mist. So line of sight is you can't see much.
Mm,
It's darker, and the eyes of the poxwalkers glow. It's like
nice.
and they add in some other monsters. They've now got Chaos Spawn in there, which is they're assholes. Beasts of Chaos. Nurgle, Beasts of Chaos. What's the other thing? Pox Hounds. They're kind of like Flesh Hounds, but Nurgle. That's
Ooh,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I've not actually tried the other classes yet. I need to try like the Psyker and the Zealot and the Ogryn. I've just been really enjoying just getting up to level 30 on my guardsman using an auto gun or a bolt gun and just like laying down gunfire or
Yep.
actually sniping with a bolt gun is really satisfying because it just it is one hit, one kill, pretty much
Right.
guaranteed. That's what
Right.
you want from a bolt gun. Yeah, it's they've I think they've tightened some things up recently with bugs and
Mhm.
economy in it. But yeah, it's just good fun. It is actually good fun.
Yeah. Yep. I got to pick it up sometime.
It's
I've been
brilliant.
it keeps going on sale for a little bit. I'm like, should I pick it up? Should I? So when I've
It's a
got
graphics card hog, obviously.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I can run Vermintide 2 very comfortably, so I should probably be able to do
I
Darktide
need
on
to
potato
play
mode.
Vermintide too. I've not played that. I think I own it. I've played Vermintide.
Yeah,
We should play
yeah.
that.
If you ever want to play it, yeah, let's do it.
James will
It's a
play
pretty
it.
fun
James
little game.
definitely got it as well.
Oh yeah.
I need to play. I also need to pick up like I need to play more of Total War Warhammer. Like,
Oh, it's so good.
oh, that was the thing they've released recently, didn't they? The beta for the Realms of something something for Age of Sigmar. It's a new turn-based
Mm-hmm.
RTS. That looks interesting. It'd be interesting to play that and see how that works and how much it captures of Age of Sigmar. I mean, this is always the thing of right, the difference between what you read in the books, what you see on the tabletop, and what you see in computer games, because there's never a full one-to-one transition. You know, like do Space Marines gather Tiberium? No, they don't. They just they take objectives, and it'll be interesting
These
if they went.
Marines need more Vespian gas.
Yeah, right. So it'll be interesting how they did that in Age of Sigmar. I guess it's
Yeah.
like taking nodes of magic, I would imagine, and resources. Yeah, um, that'll be curious. Oh, that was a good thing actually. That leads me on to another thought of other smaller games. You know, Bladeborn for Warcry, the hex grid based version of Warcry. That's
Yeah,
simplified
yeah.
rules that my nephew has because I bought that for him and his dad because I was like, that's an easy way of playing that set models. I've
Hmm.
still got the Slanesh Warband to paint for that actually. They're bringing out a new starter for Warcry, which is smaller. So you've got two warbands from Underworlds.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
it's not a hex grid, but it's smaller. So a bit of terrain, not multi-level terrain. It's like a graveyard, essentially a small graveyard. So they mostly won't have all the full abilities and reactions, but it's just a really really small starter, which is like I mean what
Yeah.
two war bands and enough counters and stuff for starting. It's going to be what 40 quid, 50 quid.
Yeah. Are they full warbands for Warcry that could be used in the main game?
Yeah,
Or are
they
they like half size?
they're so you'll have each. So one of the war bands is the fuck, what are they called? The one which is in. I'm trying to think. One is Stormcast, and there's four of them, and they've got a bird, and she's got a
Oh,
hood and a
is
lantern.
it the one with the vampires in it?
Yeah, and the other one's got the four
Okay.
vampires in it.
Cool. 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 Cool.
I mean, it's a cool set just for those miniatures, to be fucking
It is.
honest.
It is.
So that's cool. I didn't say about Necromunda, going back to that with the new book, they're updating some of the rules. So flesh wounds will rack up really quick now. So even if you roll a
Mm.
serious injury on someone, that is also a flesh wound.
Okay. Good. So
So
that'll
people are
speed up
going to
gameplay a little
die.
bit.
People will die quicker, and that you get a flesh wound every time you roll a serious injury. So if you roll a serious injury in the recovery phase at the end of a turn, you get a flesh wound. So it's
Mm.
representing you bleeding out. So I think that's to balance things with lots of wounds or lots of toughness that they bleed out and can be taken out of the game quickly. Um, they're also adding in more ability to get XP, so you get it if you cause a serious injury on someone, and they've rebalanced grenades, so there's no more. I'm going to target that point on the board because you're hard to get because you're behind cover. So you can still do it, but it's a -2 to hit that exact point. it's things that you learn after, like, you know, the length of the game that the game's been out there. So that was just my quick, like, I had in the notes I forgot to say when we talked about the board. Vampire the Masquerade Chicago by Night. What is this?
Yeah, well, it's just I've been playing it, been running it, and just kind of want to share the experience because I think it's kind of interesting. It's helping me kind of crystallize some things because I hadn't touched a World of Darkness role playing game since last summer. That was just a one shot of Mummy the Curse second edition, so it's kind of nice getting back into things. The adventure I was running was based uh, pretty fully off of the '90s vampire show Forever Night. Definitely had the Lacroix stand-in, and the Jeanette stand-in was mentioned but not seen. That'll probably occur in a future story, future chapter of the game. But I had all new players to vampires, so it was really cool. They really got into it. They had a lot of questions, but people were not buying the gothic punk world. They specifically asked, "How is this worse than the world we're currently in?"
Right.
When I was describing it, and I was like, "Yeah, you're kind of right. That's kind of the vibes." But
Well, that's the problem with this. Goes back to what we were saying about Mage. Like, how is this worse than the world we're in right now?
Right, exactly. I mean, it is kind of interesting or ironic, because if you think about crime rates, they are lower in the United States, and I'm sure the UK. Well, I don't know about the UK, but definitely lower in the United States than they were in 1991. But there's a lot of other issues going on, obviously. A lot of political strife created by, in part, social media and other things. Cable news and the like, and obviously, global climate change is wreaking horrific issues upon the world, which certainly makes. I mean, Werewolf just doesn't even have to change anything. It doesn't have to make things worse. No. It's just, here's the world we're in, except there's werewolves. But on the other hand, players had tons of fun. They were digging through flowcharts of politics. I made flowcharts of different, like, Kindred and in Chicago. They met different ones, and they really liked that. They figured out pretty fast not to trust anyone. So it was supposed to be just a one-shot, but the players are demanding more sessions, so that feels pretty good. That makes me really excited to run more World of Darkness stuff.
Yeah, I need to play some more. I mean, this gets us into the next topic, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think we should just kind of ask that question, because that's really what we've been talking about these things, reviewing them. How do you think, Chris, that you are going to spend your time in the next half year? Closing out the year, next 5-6 months. Do you feel like it's going to be all Warhammer?
Yeah,
it's going to be all Games Workshop.
It almost fucking is, right? It's right. Yeah. Okay, let's look at our release schedule. We've got stuff I've written for Wrath and Glory coming out, and I want to play. So it's just easy. Imperium Maledictum is great, and I need to come up with some plot lines. We do want to stream it, and this goes back to my argument that I had with Brendan back a few last year, that what makes Dark Heresy any fucking different to Call of Cthulhu? It isn't. It's a percentile game. The only difference is the madness is by the cursed gods. It's superfluous. It's surface things. At the core, it's the same game. So again, Imperium Maledictum, it's just humans, no playing Space Marines. I dig
same
that.
Same thing with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. It's just Call of Cthulhu. It's instead, Chaos Gods are causing the madness, and the goofy setting, or not goofy setting, the historical wrongs of humanity that you're exploring are 14th, 15th century Germany as opposed to 1920s United States.
So I want to run Imperium Maledictum. I think there'll be some fun stuff to do with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on the high seas. So piracy,
Right.
and go over to Lustria because we've got the Lustria book. So we could start off on the coast of the Empire and go all the
Yeah.
fucking way to
Yeah.
Lustria searching for treasure. That is a totally great game to play in
Yeah.
its own right. Which relates to the fact I need to run some more Iron Kingdoms. I really want to run a stream game of Legend of the Witchfire. I mean, that's D&D 5e. Like, I can run, and I think it'd be good just to run it to get some more confidence with running D&D, because I can run other games quite easy. I feel my confidence with D&D is still not there in running it, because I think I feel there's such high expectations because everyone can fucking run it
Mm.
and has an idea of what D&D is. And I have a feeling of how I want to run Iron Kingdoms to make it feel like it's the Iron Kingdoms through of using 5e D&D, but it feels like playing Warhammer Fantasy, if that makes sense. Like, it's got to have
Mm.
that
Yep.
visceral kind of gritty feel to it.
Yeah.
I want to run some cult, and I think I've got cyborg, and I've got what is it called? Void something. Vaskrim, which is another kind of grim dark sci-fi thing based off cyborg. So we've got those to do for shits and giggles. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of Warhammer. I'm playing 10th Ed and Necromunda and
Yep.
Warcry. Yeah, it's just pretty fucking exciting time right now. And I say, and also play some War Machine. It's just oh yeah, and let's just say War Machine quickly, very fucking quickly. The Brine Blood faction of Trollkin for Warcry for Warcry War Machine. Sorry, Private Press for War Machine. The Brine Blood pirates look fucking amazing. The fact there's a pirate captain with a starfish on their shoulder holding a fucking pistol is hilarious. The designs are amazing, so I need to buy and paint those things. That's like in the next few months at some point, because I'm tapped out on 40k stuff for ages, so I don't need to buy, I just need to paint. How about you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the big question for me. It seems like you're definitely in the grim dark camp.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I might end up half and half Gothic punk, half grim dark. I definitely am going to be running more vampire coming up. Will I run Werewolf the Apocalypse? I think that's a big question. Um,
I want to run
you know,
Hunter.
I I Hunter's fine. It's a fine game. It's a fine game, but I already own Hunter in the form of so many other games. That's the problem with it, right? I've got
Yeah.
Conspiracy X. I've got Hunter the Vigil.
You got Cult.
I've got Cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's so tough,
uh,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I haven't picked up Hunter. I actually have never seen Hunter in person. So there's never even been like the option to pick it up unless I wanted to buy it online. But I prefer to, support a local game store. So am I gonna run Werewolf? I'm really curious about the system. I'm very interested. I think the thing is that I I don't think I want to run it at a convention,
Oh,
which is
werewolf. No.
which is a thing. Yeah, for Werewolf, which is a thing because I actually just said that I would potentially run it for Gehenna Gaming at PAX Unplugged. So I might change that. I'll have to see what I think, but I feel like I need to have a very I want to feel comfortable with the group before I run that game because there's a lot of baggage with old Werewolf and I just don't want to deal with it. Um,
Yeah.
and as well, there's a lot of tricky themes to Werewolf, and I want to make sure that uh, everyone in my group is kind of comfortable with that. Maybe we'll do kind of consent forms or something like that before we play, and definitely have like safety rules and all that, which Gehenna Gaming does. So that is a point in their court, but I think I gotta play it with people I trust. I think first, just to see how I really feel about it, and then maybe if I feel super comfortable, then I'd be okay with demoing it.
Yeah. Sounds
So
fair. I mean,
yep.
yeah. I'm planning that I want to run something at Dragonmeet. I haven't quite thought that far ahead because that's London. I can drive to London these days. I mean, I drove to UK Games Expo and that was being there for a day was not enough. I was glad I wasn't running a demo game and trying to do stuff there. So, oh god, and also, yeah, FYI, you can go to my UK Games Expo roundup post because there's stuff from that as well. What about okay? So role play. So you said vampire. You said werewolf.
Yep.
Hunter is obviously like what flavor of game that does that.
I mean, if somebody wants to run Hunter, I'll play it. But
I kind of want to run it. I've got some ideas.
Okay, yeah,
Like
yeah. You had some great ideas for Vigil, so
yeah, I think I might
I'd be
just
game
port
with
them
that.
over and just do that.
Yeah, definitely can.
What about
For the Grimdark,
anything else?
I mean, for Grimdark, I'd love to play Imperium Maledictum.
Yeah.
That is really up my alley. It is in most ways seems like an improvement over Dark Heresy, so that would be a lot of fun. And then, yeah, I mean, I've got 2 Warhammer armies, and I'm convincing people to play it with me, so I'll play some 10th edition.
10th edition. Okay, so what are your
Yeah,
40k
that'd be good.
armies? Chaos.
So I have Chaos Space Marines, and I have I guess Imperial Agents / Astra Militarum.
Excellent.
I've got all of those
Is that
Imperial Navy.
is that so? Yeah, because this is the issue. Because like you can't take them actually currently as an army. You've got to take them as allies to.
I think you're technically allowed to make them an army, but you get no army special rules. Because your army special rule is they can work for other Imperial.
I'm sure
armies.
they'll do an update very quickly to allow it because they seem to be. I feel like they want to do. They're basically trying to say you could run an army of a rogue trader with.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that. You could easily do that. You go out and buy what a box of 10 Space Marines, split those into 2 squads of 5.
Yep.
Get a Space Marine commander. That's your core of your army, and then somehow bodge the 1,000 points of a lot
Yeah.
of.
So this is what I'm thinking, and I haven't totally mapped this out yet, but I'm thinking about using Guardsmen Tempestus Scions
Yes.
with and the Imperial Navy kind of allies from Imperial agents, and basically make it like an orbital insertion force.
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
have like Valkyries, they fly in, basically being airborne.
That's
airborne
basically what
force.
I would do because I would use my 20 Van Sar as the troops and have them. I've always said they would be a rogue trader's personal entourage of Imperial Guardsmen who are basically tech company. And then I could easily have another 10 and they're Escher and go like, well, they picked these from fuck knows where. And then there's some Orlocks that they picked up on a mining world. And then you're like, because I've got 20 of them. Oh, well, that would be such a rad army to run. Just like, it's so insane.
Yep.
That'd be really fun. And then I could have a Zealots, like, I've been wondering, because you can't do this in Sister of Battle. There's no flagellant zealot unit. There's
strange.
Repentia, but you can't take. So I can't take my my House Cawdor as a unit. I want to take House Cawdor as a fucking unit. Yeah, cool. Well, there's lots of gaming to do. I think we've got lots of podcasts about. There's a lots coming out soon. Which gets us into what we're going to be podcasting about for like the next 6 months, I guess. So, coming up, we've got the final episode of our series on Chaos Gods. We are going to be talking about, for Darkhammer, we're going to be talking about Be'lakor and Vashtor and other Chaos Gods, because they've all got beef and they all want to be Chaos Gods, or they were Chaos Gods, and their machinations are interesting. So that'll be fun for Darkhammer. For Dark Iron, for Iron Kingdoms, I am wanting to delve into the Orgoth because they're a faction now. So we can talk about the history of them, how they fit with the Infernals, and how you would use them in your roleplay games as antagonists, because they're super interesting. What else is there? So that's for Dark Iron, and then we'll mostly look at another location or faction or place or something or theme. Um, like the Grimkin would be a really good topic to talk about because they're kind of like fey
Sure.
creatures in Iron Kingdoms.
Yeah. I like
Uh,
their miniatures too. I
oh
know some
yeah, they're
people complain
creepy.
about them, but I think they're awesome.
They're super
Very
weird,
fun.
creepy. Um, for World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness, it's a bit quiet on the Chronicles of Darkness front. I mean, the Hedge is finally nearing release that I
Yeah.
worked on for Change on the
There was
Lost.
a there was a Hunter the Vigil, I think Jumpstart that just
Yes,
dropped as
yes,
well.
we can
So
look at
there's
that.
there's
That'll
a
be
little
good.
bit here and there. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. And I know that Crystal, Dave, and Chigov plenty of ideas for other stuff to come up.
For the
So
horror games, yeah, like Vazen is big. We've
Mhm.
got discussion of Blade Runner to happen.
Mhm.
Um, Ooh, what else is coming up? Literally in about a month's time or so, hitting my doorstep will be the Gambler's Chest for Kingdom Death. Uh, so FY, James has got his box arriving, and so will David. And David's in the process of moving country.
Right.
Right. James is still at his parents because of pandemics, moving jobs, etc.
Mhm.
So they have fuck all space for this box that is bigger than the Kingdom Death core box, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god. So I want to try and work out how to do some streaming of that, or at least discuss like what's coming out and do some streamed painting of those miniatures because we've got some very characterful stuff coming out and some new monsters. Um, I'm really just because it's basically it's Kingdom Death expanded. Like there's new campaign systems, there's new experience systems. There's just you know how Necromunda is. There's another book, and you could use stuff from it. You could use all of it, or you
Right.
don't. It's like that. It just there's so many tools to make Kingdom Death the game you want to play and keep replaying it, which is insane. Um, yeah. So that's my other like pile of plastic that I have to work through.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
at least I'm working
Absolutely.
through my plastic. I'm happy to say I'm working through my plastic. Um, and then at some point we're going to work out some interviews with other people. Like Thomas Purdon has been working on Trench Crusade. Andy Chambers and Gav Thorpe have been working on. I can't think of it.
The mecha game.
A
I
mecha
can't remember
game.
the name
Yeah,
either, but it's a mecha game. Yep.
and looks great. I want to look at Shiver as a game. So it's
Mm.
a gothic. Well, it's a horror RPG, but it supports many themes. Um,
Mm. Mm.
it kind of has a narrative dice system, like the is it Cortex that runs? No, Cipher that runs. No, it's whatever runs Star Wars with
Oh,
symbols.
Genesis.
Genesis. There we go. Yeah,
Genesis.
there's
Yep.
the word.
Yep. So
Um,
does it have proprietary dice
yes.
in that case? Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I think that's the stuff I'm kind of interested in right now,
Mhm.
RPG wise, and obviously the stuff that we're working on generally. Because I mean, all of us are well, most of us are working on something kind of like interesting, whether it's more Pit, whether it's more Wrath and Glory, more Iron
Yeah.
Kingdoms. There's lots to
Yeah.
talk about, so it's quite
Yeah.
exciting. I think the problem is we do this episode because we've all been ridiculously busy with moving countries or new jobs or writing actually like writing for games. It's hard to do it's hard to podcast when podcasting is not like the main. I would say it's like that's
Yeah.
not our it is our thing, but it's not like we're not trying to make bank on it. We're not like doing
Right. Right. It's not always the priority, but
no.
we definitely have a lot that we want to do. I know Crystal really wants to talk about Pip sometime,
Yeah.
talk about character creation, some of the cool things you can do with it, and we're definitely going to do that sometime in the near future. And she's got a lot of ideas. We were talking about doing maybe an episode where we kind of talk about state of the podcast, different things we want to do in the future. Might do that sometime as well. But this also kind of works as a stopgap in that regard because it kind of portrays at least what Chris and I as individuals are kind of looking at these days. And I know Crystal has a lot of like really cool things that she's been digging into as well. And Chig's gonna run Star Trek for us next
Yes,
weekend.
I was going
That's
to
another
say, yeah, we're going to. So that's yeah, shit. That's going to be on here next weekend. So we are playing Star Trek, which I've not played that system. I have no idea of the system. I've got a copy of the book somewhere. Fuck, I need to pull. Is that up there? It might be. Yes, it is. Right, I will read that. Like that's my reading tomorrow.
Yep.
So we are addicted, I think, to Strange New Worlds because that series is fucking amazing, and it says a lot about Star Trek right now. That even my partner Sam, she's been watching the new episodes of Strange New World and thinks it's great. So that's really interesting, I think. So the fact that then Star Trek as an RPG, if you try and emulate Strange New Worlds, which I think is what we want, is a huge selling point. And like, what do they release right now? You can do Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yep.
That's the thing. So if you want to do your goofy, fucking weird Star Trek, do it. Like, if you want lasers with feelings but actual official, do it. I still want my Babylon 5 roleplay game though. I need
Someday.
it.
We'll see.
need
We'll
it.
see what happens.
Well,
Hey,
yeah,
the road home is always here.
And the TV series, from all news other than writer strike stuff, is still alive.
Whoa.
Development
Okay,
on that is officially still alive. They have not written it off due to the writer strike and actor strike right now.
all right.
So clearly, someone at Warner, because it's CW, yeah, thinks there's bank in it. So yeah, good for that.
It'll be exciting. So, should we wrap this up?
Yeah, we wrap it up, but that's our bombshell is about Babylon 5, because that's the best thing in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Right, if anyone wants to find us, we can be found via www.darker-days.org, where you can find every episode of the podcast. There is something like 300 plus episodes of us talking about anything and everything to do with horror RPGs, World of Darkness, and of course every episode of Dark Iron and Dark Hammer. You can find us on Facebook, Darker Days Radio. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube and on Twitter at Darker Days Radio. You can find us on Threads at Darker Days Radio. Threads is mostly the most exciting place you can find us right now because Twitter's a fucking trash fire.
I've been posting my RPG thoughts of the day and
Yeah,
also
that'd be really
random old World of Darkness miniatures I painted up.
And you're getting some engagement with that, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely engagement. People want to chat about their hobby there. Which is good because we just didn't see that kind of thing on Twitter because everyone just gets their negative. Because negativity feeds the algorithm, we've learnt. And obviously, if you go to YouTube, you'll find stuff we've put up there. You'll find some old episodes there, but the best place to find the episodes is obviously on the Podbean and on Spotify or wherever you get your episodes that we syndicate to. And if you have any questions or opinions, you can always email us, darkdaysradio@gmail.com. And of course, if you go over to our Discord, you can chat to us there, share your thoughts, share what you're working on, talk about your favourite game, say where we're wrong, say why we're right, all that stuff. Shout outs, obviously, Painting Phase, because that's great content right now.
Oh, yeah.
I would also say if you want some other good chill content, MS Paints is a brilliant little a brilliant YouTube series. Just because, like, have you seen the recent video? I know if you're a patron, you see the recent video. It's great. Alien tree plant things that look kind of vaguely a bit organic, quite organic. But I mentioned it. They had very like Tekkaman Blade kind of vibes.
Oh yeah.
So
I
like,
love that show. That's
things.
awesome. I'm gonna go check it out. Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm trying to think of the other video series I've been watching. That's minis. That's basically it. That's kind of what I consume. Is those shows. Actually, nothing much roleplay wise with videos. It's just
Yeah, I mean, RPG YouTube's probably not that useful for us, to be honest.
yeah. I think that's
So
the thing. Is like it's preaching to the choir often,
yeah,
whereas
yeah.
it's the hot takes of we try to make this at Games
Or
Workshop.
it's lore videos and stuff. But yeah, I mean, watching just how people paint and that kind of stuff. Like Suggs' new Rogue Hobbies is pretty cool. Very unique take on a lot of things. So that's a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. What was it? Lizard? Is it Lizard of Doom? Is also interesting. It's someone that's an ex Games Workshopper, and again, it just gives me total PTSD of working at a Games Workshop. It's terrible. It's really bad. Right, I think that's it.
Yep.
I think we've closed out the show. So for everyone that did come on, thank you for watching. For those who commented, that was great. If you want more episodes like this, rather than just the straight podcast, if you want it live and comment, then say so and we will do it. I will do more streaming of painting because I'm in my new office and I can do that more easily if you want that. And streamed actual tabletop games or something like that video I will start thinking about because I do have enough cameras. So there are plans and things and events because you're going to be, as I say, PAX Unplugged. I'm thinking about Dragon Meet. I'm sure Crystal's going to something soon. Gen Con.
Really? Crystal will be a midwinter, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In the winter, so that'll be pretty sweet. I don't think anyone's going to Gen Con this year because
Chick not going to Gen Con?
No, he's just being a little cautious. Cautious because they don't require vaccinations or masks now. I don't think so.
They don't require them here, so it's like yeah. Like we say, Mage the Ascension in this world really isn't going to work. Anyway, with that thought, goodbye for now, and thanks for watching.
Yep. Take it easy and be safe out there.
See ya.